We are moving gradually to our second part of the conference, and we talk about Russian literature and what Russian literature has to offer to the international audience. And we start where we left our previous session. We start with Evgeny Kopyov, who would share his views on the major trends in the Russian book market. Please.
Hello. Hello, dear colleagues. Hello, dear colleagues. I'd like to make short overview for our international partners of Russian market. So let's go. And we expect book market recovery in 2021. So you see here that there was a decline in 2020, and all figures from the first part of the year shows that there will be the recovery, and I think that there will be even figures bigger than in 2019. So we are very positive about Russian book market, even about printed books, not only about ebook and audio books, but even about printed books. If to speak about Russian differentiation, Russia is one of the world leaders in the number of book titles published. We are in top 5 in the world, so we publish near 100,000 titles a year. You see here that there are 99,000 in 2020, and I think that this year there will be more than 100,000. And this is extremely big figure for the world publishing market. As I said before, we are in top 5 in the world, and there are near 16,000 translated titles. So we are a good market for international publishers. And also we have many Russian titles for near every segment. You can find in Russia book on everything you need if you want for your market to have a book on any special topic. I'm sure you can find it in Russia because we have we are in leaders in the world if you speak about the quantity of titles. Russian authors love to write many books. Yeah. So main genres in Russia. So we see that 27% it's children books, and we have many good Russian publishing houses which have many prizes in the world for their books, and they sell many books internationally. 25% it's educational literature, fiction 21%, 11% non-fiction, and 9% it's economic, political, and history. And we see that non-fiction is growing. If you look at the leading Russian publishers, so there is a rating. I will not stop on it, but you will see the presentation. And leaders are universal publishing houses, but there are many publishing houses which concentrate on children publishing, on educational publishing. We see the significant increase in the share of online stores. And if last year we see that there was only 23% for online stores, but last year in 2020 there was already 33%. And I think that this year we'll receive the figure nearly 40%. And there was my colleague in the previous conference from Alpina Publishing House. He said that he has already 60% sales from online stores. So I think that the figure and market share of online stores will increase, and it helps you to receive objective figure about Russian market because there are many ratings, and you could find the best book on every genre you want through online bookstores. It's Ozon, Labyrinth, and Wildberries. Number 1 now is Ozon, but Wildberries is maybe, I think that this at the end of this year, Wildberries maybe will be the leader. So there is online bookstores. Yes, as I said before, Ozon number 1, but I think that this year Wildberries will be number 1. The most popular authors in Russia: Stephen King, it's interesting fact that Stephen King is the most popular author in Russia in terms of total circulation. So there is nearly 700,000 copies, and there is 120 titles. Number 2 is Dontsova. It's a Russian detective author. Number 3, Dostoevsky is a classic author. So we see that in Russia, detective is very popular, and also Dostoevsky, for the преступление and наказание, punishment. Crime and punishment title. Yeah, it's very famous. So we see that horror detectives are in the top of Russian ratings. Also, you see here Agatha Christie, for example, it's number 9. And another interesting fact that small women, now it's also in the top. It's All Code. It's number 10 place on the rating. And also, it's an interesting fact that it's only in the 2020. It's because of the equalization. Yeah, right word. Let's move. Electronic and audiobooks remain the leading market driver in physical and monetary terms. So now it's in copies. We see that there is a growth nearly 35%. And in rubles, there is 8.5 billion rubles in 2020. Also, we see that there is a growth of the legal market for ebooks, and I think that this growth will continue because everywhere in the world we see the stagnation of ebook market, but in Russia we see the growth of ebook market and audiobook also. Another interesting fact is that there is a growth of reading activity in 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic. We made research with Nielsen, with Comcon, it's a marketing agency, and this research showed us extremely high figures of reading. Yeah, if you see, in 2019, there was 38% of people who read books once a year, past 6 months, one book over the past 6 months. But in 2020, there was 67%. There is the auditory near doubled in a year. So I think that if in 2020 this auditory read books from their shelves, because there is a habit to buy books and not to read usually, because there is not so much time. But in 2020, I think that they read books from their shelves. But in 2021. They will come back. They are coming back to stores, and we see the rise of the book market. And as I said before, we are very optimistic about this year. I think that there will be growth nearly 18–20% of the market. And at the end, I'd like to add that we have prepared the catalog of rights for the leading Russian publishers. You can find it on the Russian Book Union website, http://bookunion.io, and we also have a support system for translations from the Russian language due to the collaboration with the Institute for Literary Translations. And you can find all the information on the website of this institute. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this powerful and very speedy, I must say, presentation.
Because we are short of time.
Yeah. And now we are to be joined by Irina Prokhorova. Irina, online. Yeah?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay. A renowned publisher and editor-in-chief of the New Literary Review magazine, co-founder and chairman of the Expert Council of the Mikhail Prokhorov Foundation. And we hope Irina will give us an overview on the grants program of the Prokhorov Foundation and criteria they use for choosing the right books to support.
Well, colleagues, thank you so much for inviting me for such an important event. I promise I'll try to be as brief and precise as it ever possible for a Russian speaker. But before starting, I wanted to ask a technical question. Will you help me with the presentation? I can't do it myself, but I sent the presentation to, so that's I could ask to show different pictures. Is it possible?
Нам прислали, презентацию прислали, нужно, чтобы кто-то ее листал.
Okay. Can I ask for help? Just asking to show the first page. So could anyone do that for me?
Презентация была
Just a moment, we will solve this problem. Yes, 1 minute.
Okay, I'll start talking and then ask to show the first page of my presentation. Okay, so
It seems that you are having trouble in finding.
very interesting, indeed. Okay, I'll start anyway. So first of all, okay, I'm a publisher and I started my publishing business in 1992. On the other hand, I'm a co-founder of Michael Prokhorov's Fund, which was launched in 2004, and its main aim to support Russian contemporary culture. And one of the major directions of their work is supporting Russian book industry. So we started, in 2007, we started a big annual book fair in Krasnoyarsk in industrial and cultural city in Siberia. We support Russian libraries. We also launched book literary prize North, new literature. And of course, one of the most important project is Transcript. This is support translation project, and it's focused on supporting international publishers of acquiring the rights and translating Russian literature. So both fiction and nonfiction. What do we mean by nonfiction? Is mostly the liberal arts. It's history, philosophy, political science, sociology, and so on, as well as works of classic and contemporary fiction, poetry, and children's literature. So, and our first aim is the preference is given to intellectual, experimental, and innovative works of contemporary Russian authors, as well as works of classical literature never previously translated and little known outside Russia. I must say that when we started this program in 2009, we were not only the first. We were not only the first, but for rather a number of years, the only one program of supporting the Russian literature. Fortunately, then the Institute of Translation appeared, so were two organizations that do it systemically. Of course, there is nothing unique in this type of program because there are plenty of them all around the world. But what distinguishes us, I think, from the other grand competitions programs, it's its attitude to publishers. You know, being a publisher myself, I know the specificity of this profession. So we tried to work out the terms and conditions which are most flexible and I would say even cozy for publishers. So I will just name a few of them. So is it possible to show some presentation? Okay. I'll be descriptive instead of being visual. So what really distinguishes from that? So there is no deadlines for applications. So you can apply throughout the calendar year. And we have a board of independent experts, and the meetings of the board are held 4 times a year. So the publisher can receive an answer very quickly. So he or she doesn't need to wait half a year or the whole year knowing the result. What is more important, so publishers can apply even before signing a contract with an author or a rights holder. Why it is so important, we understand perfectly well, because you don't need to risk and make any obligations just before you are sure that you have subsidy. So what are the kinds of supports we propose to the publishers? For fiction and poetry, it's full or partial acquisition of rights, full or partial payment for translation. As far as non-fiction is concerned, we usually support the rights, mostly full support, full, sometimes partial payment for translation, and also payment for editorial and printing expenses for the publication. If you look, still, can I have some kind of diagram? Can I show a diagram?
Sorry, Rina, really, I'm really deeply sorry. We're trying to sort out now these technical difficulties. It seems that something is not going well enough as expected. Sorry.
Okay. I will see if my colleague from Institute of Translation will show the diagrams. I'll think that's a kind of, discrimination of a private charity. Okay, I'm joking. So for this period of time, from the start in 2009 to May 2011, we supported 960 applications. I think by the end of the year, it will be over 1,000 applications. Interesting enough, if we see, well, I have a diagram, but you have to guess what is the proportion of different genres of books that we supported. So, of course, the dominant weight is for prose, which is 73%. But this is the prose which include poetry, and poetry is almost 8% of support, but I think quite a lot for poetry in a way. And prose comprises different genres. It's novels, stories, correspondence, memoirs, and many other genres belong to it. Non-fiction has around 20% from the total number of supported applications. And I must say that if in the beginning, the applications for non-fiction books were very scarce, 1 or 2 through the year. The last several years, we have huge number of very good applications for non-fiction, and we support it quite readily. I also had a wonderful presentation. So what is the main, who are the leading applicants? And so we have applications from 47 countries all around the world. But I would say the leaders of these applicants, strangely enough, I would say it's Italy and Serbia. And especially Serbia, it's more than 10% of the whole quantity. I think probably the real leader, considering, this is a very small country, but they're very active both in fiction and what is most interesting in non-fiction. It's Italy, it's more than 12%. We have USA, it's around 7%, and Great Britain, it's 4.5%. But if you imagine what is a huge market in the United States, then we can certify that's a rather poor result. We know that the English-speaking market is notoriously, try to avoid, all kinds of translations. So this is visible from this chart, which is now you can't see. And I would say in general, European countries, especially northern countries, I say Italy, Spain, are very active, and there are quite a lot of books that are presented for support. Of course, the former Soviet republics, the Baltic states, Armenia, with American Georgia, and many other, they're very active as well. In a way, but still we have quite a lot of applications from Israel, India, Croatia, which is quite an active, Argentina, Albania, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Turkey, China, quite a small percent, but still there. So almost everywhere. And I would say we just, because we don't have the pictures, probably I'll stop here and then we'll probably ask the questions. I want to stress out, to point out why we're so much focused on, yes, at last, you can see, yes, that's the applicants, where Serbia, it's 10%, 12% is Italy, which is green in a way, and all other countries, you know, which are mentioned, they're more or less, well, Armenia is very active as well. It's more 5%. Why we're just so focused on publishers? You, of course, understand that they take responsibility in the final decision whether to translate and publish the book or not. So these grants are given to foreign publishers, not to translators and to any other people involved in the publishing business. And I must say, we're quite satisfied with the results. Even in 2020, during the pandemic, very few publishers changed their minds and have withdrawn their applications. So we can see the dynamic and the increase of applications who will be able to satisfy the needs of the foreign publishers. So, and now this is our motto, going back to the basics. Any new technologies is wonderful and we try to use it everywhere. But if we want to promote Russian thought and Russian literature abroad, there is no any other way as to support the translations and the foreign publishers, stimulating them to increase their interests in Russian contemporary writing. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. I can't agree more. Of course, support is an essential part of the ecosystem of moving Russian literature to the foreign markets. And 960 books is amazing results, an amazing result. Thank you very much for the work you do and for taking part in our presentation today. And to follow on this topic, I would like to ask Evgeny Reznichenko. Evgeny, will you talk about a grant program of the Institute of Translation and probably elaborate a little bit on how to apply, what criteria do you use to pick up books and so on?
Добрый день. Добрый день, я приветствую Ирину Дмитриевну.
Hello, I would like to extend my greetings to Irina Dmitrievna. I would like to express my solidarity by not sharing my presentation. Well, the presentation did take place, so we're okay. We're okay. We're doing fine. Okay, so let's just go on. My main message to our foreign colleagues and publishers, friends, there are two powerful organizations, Mikhail Prokhorov's Fund and Transcript Program, and the Institute for Literary Translation, which is a non-commercial organization. What we do have are state-provided funds. We have to participate in competitions, and we are more or less successful in doing that. Nevertheless, the difference between us is small but not negligible. The difference is how we take applications. Prokhorov's Foundation supports translation. It at least partially supports preprint. It partially, or it can support acquiring rights. It can support nonfiction. It has a broader scope of what and where the support is granted. due to the fact that we can only spend the money that we win following very specific rules, we don't have as wide a range of opportunities. We fully support the translation, and primarily it's prose and it's fiction. Occasionally, we grant support to nonfiction, usually nonfiction that has to do with specific text, maybe cultural studies, texts on history, whatever concerns liberal arts, and texts that provided huge impact for the rest of the world. Something, manifestos of early 20th century, texts by our philosophers such as Rozanov and Berdyaev, and so forth, and Shmilov, Mikhail Bakhtin, Yuri Lotman, extremely well known names, the constructivists, Stanislavski, everything that truly influenced the rest of the world. We do support, but it's a reasonably small part. Poetry takes up a smaller percentage. Lately, we've been trying to grant support to children's literature to promoting children's literature as part of following the concept, and essentially any application for a text that is children's literature, we can promise our support or in the support of our board. As Irina Prokhorova said, we tend to look at the publisher. We're not looking at simply translating. We are interested in the book or the text being published. We're interested in the publisher investing in this book. Hence, whatever concerns the distribution, whatever concerns the book reaching the booksellers, and ideally, the publishing house should, in fact, make some money. This is how we see, the good picture. This is our dream, and obviously that what is encouraging for us and that what makes us going. In addition to grants, and our grant program has been around since 2012, and over these 9 years, we granted support to over 1,000 translated texts, minus the series. The overall amount spent to allocate these grants is about 10 million euros. And we started with 68 applications annually. We now look at almost 400, 380 last year. Let's see what happens this year. I cannot but agree with Irina Prokhorova that the Serbs are very active. The Armenians are very active. I also have to mention the Brits and the Americans. Perhaps the reason for that is that we have a special program that we have together with them. In addition to supporting the publisher, we support the schools for young translators. There are 4 such schools in the U.S., and the news gets spread around, and translators who graduate from these schools immediately begin to collaborate with British and American publishers, with mentors and teachers and tutors, and these are extremely well-known named Marianne Schwartz from the United States and others. And they're being helped by their colleagues, and they're also quite well-known, and they're really prominent figures in that field. This is a very important aspect of what we have been doing. The next thing, we finance a series of books, the so-called 100 volume of Russian texts in the main world languages, Chinese, English, French, and Irina Prokhorova, in fact, is quite well aware of what we have been doing because she is a member of one of our boards, and she participated in launching the 100 volumes of Russian literature in English. We also have sort of on-the-spot series. We collaborate with the Institute for Translation, and that was established last year. There is a project, 100 Slavic novels. Now we're about to begin another series, Forgotten Classics of the 20th Century, together with the British publishing house Pushkin Press. And as soon as the publisher offers not something individual or specific, but once we can look at something that can be continued, we obviously view it as something serious, as a true interest in promoting Russian literature. And it's we're friendly to everybody, but obviously we show more interest. So addressing foreign publishers, there are 2 institutions in Russia that are awaiting your applications for Russian texts to be translated. We are independent. We don't look at what we are doing on a daily basis. Our experts are very different people. They represent different social groups and, in fact, different professional circles. These people may have very different political views or even other ambitions. So it's a wide range. So my advice to you, if it didn't work out at Prokhorov's Foundation, please do turn to us or vice versa. But please follow your serious desires. Choose good translators, choose good texts. Follow what's new, follow the awards. In the last few years, Oleg Pavlov, unfortunately, who is no longer with us, received a very prestigious award. Maria Stepanova made a short list and is sold in the States. Sometimes we do appear in long lists for Nobel, but there are several literary awards in Russia, Большая книга, the big book, Yasnaya Polyana, and even without actually seeing the text, you can be assured that it's a good quality text. Another award, Lycée, this is a award for young writers, writing prose and poetry. Again, something to look at. It is indeed a mirror of what's happening in Russia in terms of literature.
We also support various events and measures on request of foreign institutions. These are workshops, schools for translators, for young translators, any events that are related to Russian literature and its translations. They're taking place in Germany, Hungary, India, US, China, Italy, France, naturally, Spain, and so on and so forth. It's quite a list of countries and events where we supported these events upon request. It was not our Russian initiative. It was a request from local institutions, and we thought that they're worth supporting. Now we are moving to a new area. We are trying to support digital technologies. In particular, there is a project in Italy and one in UK, and hopefully next year we will expand our presence in the digital environment. Dear friends, we have the money. And we are very much interested in your work, in our cooperation. I admire your efforts. If we get back to Alexander Pushkin, the famous Russian poet, thank you for the translation, and I hope they will translate Pushkin's words. So, we are playing not for money, but we play to spend eternity with ourselves. Thank you.
Many thanks, Evgeny, and I hope our international colleagues will listen attentively to this call for action, and especially they must be inspired by the words, "We do have money, come and take them." And our next speaker is Natalia Poleva, foreign rights representative from Exmo Publishing House. Natalia, could you share your views on the diversity trends in books in Russia? Does this kind of books exist here in our country? And are there any Russian books that made an international bestseller?
I'm happy to be here today, and I hope that all my colleagues. I'm happy to be here today, and I hope all my colleagues are presenting their bestsellers as well, because this is why we are all here today. Yes. So I'm trying to get adjusted to it. Of course, since Exmo set on an expert journey of the content 20 years ago, we do have a lot of bestsellers in our catalog, and a lot of names made it truly international books. For example, our Lazy Mom has made it to a parenting brand all over the world, and Kremlin School of Negotiations became a standalone notion in business psychology. Publishers and agents do come to Exmo for new titles in both fiction and non-fiction, and they all get what they want due to our extensive list of titles. But I would like to mention one of our recent best-selling titles. It's a post-apocalyptic novel by Eduard Verkin, Sakhalin Island, which is selling in Europe and Asia, in the Arabic market, and which was supported, as far as I remember, by the Institute for Literary Translation. Well, I don't know if we have any kind of special secret for making an international bestseller, because, as it was said before, a good book always sells, and I don't know any person who is not interested in bending over and looking beyond the end of the world to see this ever unique and at the same time repeating story of death and survival, which we see in Sakhalin Island. As for diversity, of course, publishers react to the trend of on the Russian book market very quickly, and we have to adjust just to serve new products to our readers first, and of course make our books more sellable internationally. Diversity is found in many ways, and I'm sure that my colleague will repeat it not once today, that it's fascinating to see strong female characters going on the event scene, and of course, diversity is considered both from the point of view of majority and from the point of view of minority. I think the sharpest vision of diversity is achieved through the lens of traditional societies, as I can say Russian society is. I'm really proud that we are representing now a very charismatic and brave author, Ksenia Burskaya, with her book, My White, which is absolutely poetic and totally encouraging. We see a 16-year-old girl living through the story of her first life, her first love, and a seemingly everyday topic, you might say, but this girl is the daughter of two moms. She has been brought in a family of two women. And is it really possible to write about same-sex family in today's Russia without gay persecution? Yes, it is. It's possible. And Ksenia Burskaya proved it 100% that the universal story of first love and parents breaking up is alive, and well, all families, all happy families are alike, but all unhappy families are unique in their unhappiness. And here we can have a chance to draw up a curtain and look into an autobiographical novel of a family life when parents are two women and their daughter falls in love with a guy. So this novel translated to the world that same-sex families in Russia have children, and now these children have voice to speak about how they perceive this world. I'm done.
Oh, thank you very much, Natalia. In fact, I read the book My White in a manuscript long before it was published, and I was touched with what Natalia just said. It is poetic, it is universal, it is very touching, and it is very good story with a very good plot. Highly recommend, if I may. Thank you. And now I hand over to Igor Grishuk, foreign rights manager and acquisition editor at Apricot Books. And we will talk about trends in young adult segment. And my question is, what world book trends work for the Russian authors?
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to see you all here. Well, you know, it's a tricky question to answer. If I knew the answer, definitely I would become a millionaire and a very successful rights manager. Anyway, I will try to answer it. Not starting from the scratch, I would say that the same trends actually work for the Russian audience as they are for the worldwide. And let me maybe briefly illustrate my idea with some assumptions that we've got from our experience as publishers. You know, in our previous part, you addressed the same question to the people from outside of our country. Why Russian teens and why an audience stop reading? Well, I would say that at a certain point, they are over-bombarded and overwhelmed by the bulk of information at the age of 13, 15, when they're pressed for time and resources and need to make their vital life choice, where to go to enter and what to do after the school. So when they become a little bit older, they start to reflect and they start to seek answers to the questions, eternal questions and vital questions that are arising upon them. I mean, all these matters and topics that are quite essential and very hot right now in the world remain the same in Russia. And gender and social inequality, climate problems, the poverty, the social discrimination, etc., and etc. All these trends, apart from being described in so worldwide literature, of course, are vividly presented in the Russian books and in the Russian segments. We at Apricot Books have figured out that Russian authors might be quite successful and appealing to the international audience if they correspond or if they stand in line with the global trend, and if our text and our titles match the audience's expectations. What I mean here, on the one hand, the title needs to be or ought to be really distinctive. It has to possess its own unique Russian voice. On the other, it has to appeal to the international audience, and the author, the title, has to communicate with them in their own language. It has to share the same values, the same, like I would say, core of ideas. And for us and for my publishing house, we've got a couple of titles in our portfolio that might be or that are quite successful for us and that might be appealing to the international audience. The first one is a very poetic and I would say stunning title from Julia Simbirskaya, who is known quite well in Russia as a poet, but right now she acts as a narrative fiction writer. The story is brilliantly illustrated by Oksana Baturina, and it touches upon the problems of abuse and toxic relationship in a family. The female heroine has to make her choice and escapes from her family, and she finds herself with her little daughter in an international hub in the airport, where she accidentally meets some very strange people. All of these fates are intertwined, and this international hub airport tends to become the local for transformation of their fates. And actually, it's not a fairy tale, but this is a story that can lead you to the answers and that could actually give you some answers. On the other hand, I would like to tell about another post-apocalyptic title in our collection. This is a brilliant example of a very young and budding author, Maria Khamkova, who has depicted the story of a post-apocalyptic world torn by the catastrophe and the war. And the world is segmented into two big classes. So all the nightmares, all the things that we've got in our minds, we will see in that post-apocalyptic reality. On the one hand, on the other, what I would like to emphasize that we follow the trends and we have tried to illustrate this title with black and white graphic style illustrations. So again, both titles touch upon the problems and themes that are really underlying for the international audience as well as for the Russian ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And now we are waiting for Thomas Welding, who is to join us online, hopefully. Thomas?
I'm here.
Oh, hello, Thomas. Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. Thomas is a literary agent with a long story, with a long roman, I would say, love story with Russian literature. He is a real ambassador of the Russian literature in the international markets. So, Thomas, how did it happen?
Thanks for the warm introduction. It happened long ago because I studied Slavistic and spent a year in the mid-80s in Moscow, and since then have been regularly traveling to Russia. And by then I got to know all these, then in those times, underground authors, big names then afterwards, Sorokin, Prigov, and so on, and started as a translator for 10 years. And during the end of the 90s, or the 90s, and then at the end of the 90s, when authors got their foreign rights back and didn't know what to do with it, they approached me and asked me to sell their rights, not as a translator, but try to sell more. And then I started the business. So I'm in the business now for almost good 20 years. The beginning was hard to build up the list with a little support of Russia being guest of honor in Frankfurt. That was a push in the beginning in 2003, but quickly afterwards we found out that just focusing on Germany and one language is not enough. It's a little niche selling Russian rights and being competitor to all the other languages. So we opened up from just Germany and Europe to the rest of the world. So I'm representing Russian authors now worldwide outside of Russia, the whole world. But we are based in Germany, but we have, of course, support. I'm in close cooperation with many co-agents in several countries. Some of them are fluent in Russian, and they help us promoting and selling our clients' works. And the service also includes not only selling, but research, legal advice, and fundraising. And here, of course, as we heard, and I can only support and give my thanks back here. It's a big help, of course, is the ongoing translation support by Institute Perivoda and Prokhorov's Foundation. What I just want to quickly add is that maybe a support also of, from my perspective, of sample translations, which are so far fully on the author's or agency's expense, could have an effect with a high leverage. So one single good English sample translation of 50 pages could really help convince editors in many foreign countries to buy translation rights. So 50 pages really could make a difference. I see that we have to compete in the publishing houses. The Russian language has to compete with French, English, with all the others, and also editors to push and convince in the conference of publishing houses to convince the others and push the Russian title. They need an English translation because their colleagues need to read it, and almost nobody can read Russian in original. So it's a crucial point to have a good English sample. That's just so far on the agency's work.
But what commissioning editors looking into when they choose the book for their publication list?
Well, there's always kind of tendencies changing. Now we have more interest in non-fiction than in belletristic, as we call it, Russian prose. It's became more difficult. Well, it was always difficult, but I think the COVID crisis has just put to the surface some problems that had been there already, but not so obviously. We have in Western publishing houses, we have too many titles published per year who have to compete between themselves, and the print runs are very low. Now we see kind of a cleaning period. And this affects mainly, and this is my big hope for the Russian literature, which is a high quality, more exotic, and maybe a little bit more difficult literature. Big publishing houses in the West are now cleaning their programs and throwing out many titles that are just filling the program, but are not really neither important to the readers because they can have the same information now in other media like Netflix series and so on, like just entertaining books, and which are not really shaping the profile of those publishing houses. So they tried now to get rid of those titles. My hope is that this will give more room and attention to the kind of the old purpose of exchanging cultures, really having books from any other also small languages. And Russia here is always a small language. And in Germany, it's not even 1% of the translations is from Russian. So I hope that when we see a post-COVID, or probably that would take still some time, that we see more space and more attention to, yeah, let's call it more exotic languages like Russian. And because Russia, with entertaining books, I don't have any entertaining books. Well, they've maybe you receive some pleasure reading a good Russian novel, but that's not the entertaining genre.
Well, I don't know whether I should feel myself privileged to be exotic, but I mean, to belong to an exotic language. But thank you so very much for your insights. It's very important and very valuable. And thank you very much for joining us at such a short notice. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And now I would like to ask Ekaterina Yakadimova, a literary agent, about what obstacles she thinks it's necessary to overcome to sell Russian authors to the international markets. Yeah.
I'm Evgenia Yakodomova. It's not a problem, but it's fine, yeah. Speaking about the obstacles, the first one was highlighted by Thomas, because the Russian language is quite an exotic one. There are very few specialists, editors or publishers who can read Russian, who can understand the context of the book, even it's just very short text. Nevertheless, we always need English samples, and it's Thomas was right to address to grant foundations about if it's possible to give subsidiaries to sample translations in English. Another thing is that I'm sorry. On the other hand, I work with such books which promote highly Russian history, Russian culture, and for some publishers, they consider these subjects to be a little bit too local, and I try to break this frontier to explain this. On the one hand, it's another diversity trend, which was mentioned already today, the interest to Russian history, to Russian culture. We see it both in sales in Russia, and we see it both in sales abroad when we start speaking about selling rights. So, and I would like to highlight a few books to speak about the success on the international market of Russian publishers. The first one is The Apartment of Century of Russian History. It's a cross-generational, multi-genre book, which we stay in the same apartment for the whole, during the whole century, and we see how generations change one by another, and we see how the stories are told through the point of view of children and through the point of view of everyday items, because there are non-fiction commentary in the book also. And if we speak again about some trends, so this book could be named as a Wimmelbuch, and we see that there is interest even among adult readers to this book. And this title, whenever it goes, it attracts attention both among readers and among specialists. There are a number of prizes for this title, and we hope that it's only the beginning of this long way, because the book is sold to 9 languages. So, on the one hand, being local, being exotic, it's an obstacle. On the other hand, it's our key competitive point. And another example of this is the series of Yulia Yakovleva, the Leningrad Tales. We see also this trend of new approach, new vision to our history, to the history of the 20th century, which is quite hidden pages, even for the local, for Russian people, and both for foreign readers, for foreign publishers, and they are very curious about what was happening actually behind the Iron Curtain. And this series, it combines many elements which are also quite in trend right now. It's a family saga which have a mixture of elements of magical realism, and it's both a detective story, and it covers 10 years starting from the Stalin repressions till the end of the Second World War. And so it's quite a strong series by Yulia Yakovleva, which I believe will find its foreign publishers and foreign readers with the support maybe of Institute of Translations, which, as Evgeny said, is interested in supporting series. So that's, if we speak about, the main obstacle is breaking the barrier with the Russian language, and we should make efforts together maybe to break this wall. Thank you. Unfortunately, Evgeny is not here, but I believe, and maybe Irina will comment a little bit. If you don't have a Russian translator or a Russian reader, but you are curious about any title in Russia, please don't be shy. We will find a specialist. Just show your interest to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's so wonderful to hear about success stories among our publishers. And I would like to refrain a well-known phrase: one small step for a publisher, one giant leap for the country's culture. Thank you very much.
Maybe I would like to add one more obstacle. I'm sorry. It's the lack of information, actually. We don't have enough information about the Russian prizes in English, and maybe it would help a lot. So again, it's our homework to do, but we are starting doing it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks again for this comment. And I would like Marina Kadetova, editorial director from the children book publisher Compass Guide, to talk a little bit on the trends in teenage literature and how universal these trends are and how specific for our country may be.
Thank you. Yeah, so Compass Guide is a children's books publisher, and we also now publish books for teenagers, for young adults. And so now I would like to show the two books, here. So the first one is Sugar Child, a novel by Olga Gromova, a novel for teenagers from 11 years old. This is an award-winning novel, and so we have currently 10 editions of this book from the 2013, I think. And so the book entered the White Ravens list, and it was sold to 13 languages so far, and also the German rights were sold with the help of Thomas Widling agency. Thanks to Thomas. And so this is a novel based on real events. And this is a story of a 5-year-old girl who found herself to be the daughter of the enemy of the people. her father was named this way, and she and her mother were sent to a camp in Kyrgyzia. Living there, or even settling there, was really hard, and they met some really frightening, scary people. And the book, but despite all this, the book is very optimistic. And so the strong points of this book are that it's based on true story, and it's optimistic despite the situation, and it's heartwarming without tear-jerking. It's really a story of support, story of strong character. And and now we come to the idea that was already expressed here, that at the international market there is an interest to the Russian history, to the historical events, to some traumatic events of facts of our history, but I don't think that it's like that in the children's books. And Olga Gromova, when we sold the rights to our first country, the Belgium, she asked the translator, so why have you chosen this book? So this Russian history, the 30s, the 40s in Russia, and Belgian children, so they're so different. And the translator answered, for us, it's not a book about repressions, about Stalin, about history. This is a book about, this is a story of overcoming some difficulties, a story about inner force of a person, about growing up in difficult conditions, and these difficult conditions can be everywhere. So this time it's talking about Russia in its 30s and 40s, but it could be like any difficult event, any difficult time in the story of our planet. And and maybe this is the secret of the success of this story, and we hope that it will work in other countries like it works in Russia, because 10 editions and theater plays and film rights and so on are like showing the success of this story. And another example is Maya Calendar by Victoria Lederman. The book that was published in 2016, and we have over 100,000 copies sold so far. And this is a story of 3 teenagers who just got a common problem. They started living backwards in time. And so every morning they were waking up a day before. And these 3 teens who even don't like each other very much has to become a really team, and and now we come to another point about Russian books at the international market. That's when we only started talking about Russian books, about Russian children's books at the international book fairs, we started telling the stories that contemporary Russian literature exists. We were surprised because many editors were telling us, "Oh, okay, so it's so interesting, but it's so Russian," and it was difficult to understand and to explain what is really Russian, but at least. And now when we have books like this, the Maya calendar, we are told, okay, yeah, it's a great story, but why should we buy books like this about traveling in time? Because we have such stories in our countries. And so now we are somewhere in between. And we really hope that, so now we can say that, you see, this is a really genuine page turner, that this is a book really well written, really interesting, and also talking to teens about the things that are important to them. And this is a success at the Russian market. And even, now we have another point to tell, that film rights were sold, and by spring the next year we will see this movie in the cinemas. So hopefully we will find something to persuade the international book market, to show that Russian books exist. We have some support system, we have things to show, and don't be afraid.
What is the film company that purchased the film rights?
Oh, after, I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Marina. And our final speaker for today is Anne Plotnikova, Foreign Rights Manager from IST Publishing House. And I'd like to ask her to speak a little bit on such an interesting topic as children's nonfiction. As we know, nonfiction has been a driver to the market for the previous 5 probably years. So how it is in the children's area?
Hello, everyone. I will be quite quick. So let me tell you a few facts about AST. It's a big publishing house, and children's share is about 30%, while in international sales, it's over 50%. So I guess all of my colleagues would agree with me on the fact that children's books are being sold pretty well. Of course, we understand that illustrations don't require to be translated, so it's kind of like easier to promote children's books. Well, and we all know that fiction is believed to rule the world, but at the same time, we see that there is an increase in non-fiction, and especially children's non-fiction and educational titles, especially like in AST, 3-5% increase from year to year. And well, despite we have some adult gems, I've picked children's non-fiction book series, which were quite popular with our foreign partners. And first one is activity book series by Nikolai Vorontsov, pretty popular illustrator and cartoonist. Everyone likes to have fun, and this book is about fun. We all love cats. These cats are funny, they are main characters, and all kids, whether they are from Vietnam or from Poland, like to do games, puzzles, mazes, or color. So this book series is kind of a good friend to kids internationally. Of course, Vorontsov has built his presence in Russia, and he took part into many foreign illustration competitions, and he also made illustrations for foreign editions. And I guess it helped. to sell the book series into several languages, and I still believe that it has some chances to be exported to other countries. And my second choice was non-fiction book series by Ludmila Petranovskaya, who is believed to be a star on the Russian book market. One of her parenting books was held as the book of the year by Russian leading marketplace, Ozon, or Russia's Amazon, let's call it this way. And well, I believe that the content of the book is also kind of international because, well, adults, caregivers, parents are hesitating to explain difficult things to their children, and these books help them explain things, what to do if, how to handle difficulties, challenges, and fears. So, everyone is welcome to drop me a line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we can call it a day now. And let me express my deepest gratitude to our amazing speakers, to our patient audience, to our host, the Institute of Translation. As the saying goes, once is a happenstance, twice is a coincidence, the third time is a pattern. I really hope that this conference will become a pattern and we will see each of you next year. Thank you very much and goodbye.